the only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Drew, do we remember how to work this podcast?
Yes.
Okay, good, because it's been a month since we recorded, and that was the last one with Paul Allen. But welcome back, everybody. This is 612 Vikings. Your host, Dustin, alongside Drew. Drew, how we doing? We're about a week away from training camp, so that's good news.
Yeah, a week away from training camp, which we were kind of talking about last time, and we got some, I guess, competitive football or somewhat meaningful football if you want to talk about preseason games at the end of the month, and then we got Vikings football in the month of August, so it's going to be here before we know it. I think I just saw the NFL loading bar, and it's at 75% full, so we're almost there.
Let's go. We need it. We are fiending for this NFL season. It's going to be great. Week 1 in Chicago. Great. What is it? Monday Night Football? So,
yeah.
With that said, with training camp around the corner here, the Vikings, their roster is looking pretty good. They got some great guys in the trenches on offense and the defensive line. Their running backs are good. Their wide receivers are great. We're looking at the defensive side. Their line is good. Their linebackers are good. Safeties are pretty decent. Cornerback. Today we're going to talk about their cornerback room. And we're going to talk about some guys that could possibly be on the Vikings, just guys that the Vikings should look for to sign either before training camp, during training camp, after training camp, most likely after training camp. But we're going to kind of talk about a couple guys in this episode that could potentially land a job with the Minnesota Vikings. So, Drew, if you want to kick us off here on who you think would be a good fit for us, just start with the first guy and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'll go with a veteran guy who, if you want to say I don't want to say lost his job, but, maybe was a little bit overshadowed by some incoming rookies at Philadelphia. You had James Bradberry, who's going to be 32 by the start of the season. So does he have a little bit more in that tank to really push the Vikings over the edge? Kind of similar to what we saw last year in Stephon Gilmore. Is he going to be that lockdown corner like he was a couple years ago with Philly? Or even with Carolina? Most likely not. But, you're going to be paying him Stephon Gilmore money, which I think he made like $5 to $7 million, somewhere in that range, if I remember correctly. So not a whole lot, but it's somebody that you could put in that's a veteran guy that's kind of been there, done that, and something that they could desperately need because there really isn't a lot of vets in that corner room that can kind of look back and lean on, especially somebody who has the championship caliber, who's been to now 2 Super Bowls with Philadelphia alone. And I'm not sure if he went to one with Carolina. I'd have to look into that, but I do know for sure he was at 2 with Philly. But, just with those 2 alone, just the playoff experience and the big game atmosphere alone, I mean, it makes a difference. So, I always kind of compare the Vikings team to the Cubs like 10 years ago. They went and they got a guy named Ben Zobrist that was a really big catalyst into them being that Super Bowl or their World Series championship run. He went from Kansas City over to the Cubs over there, and just having that veteran guy in that locker room that they could really lean on. Maybe James Bradberry is that guy that can kind of help them do that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't mind a guy like James Bradberry that has that experience playing at corner, and I think if I remember correctly, he played safety too for a little bit with the Giants, right?
He might have gotten some snaps, but I think he was primarily corner over there.
Primarily corner, right?
Yeah, because I believe things weren't really working out too much with the Giants or something like that. They were trying to get rid of him, and then he found his footing with Philly. So it was one of those things where I sucked with the Giants, and then I want to go to Philly and put up career numbers, and Philadelphia's really benefited with all that. So I think that's what it was more than anything. But I think he primarily played corner in New York.
Yeah, so a lot of these guys that we're going to talk about too, we're not going to assign them to a 3 to 5 year contract at all. These are going to be somewhat cheaper guys, just because of whether that's age or just health factor, whatever it is, prove it deals. But right now the Vikings, according to Over the Cap, they have $23 million in cap space, so it's enough to sign a couple guys if something, or a big contract, whatever it is. So James Bradberry, I wouldn't mind, from Philadelphia. What about Rasul Douglas? I know he's kind of been having some rumors going back to Green Bay. I don't know. A lot of fans really liked him. He's kind of like our Duke Shelley in a way, where a lot of fans liked him, but he wasn't necessarily like a lockdown corner, but someone that you could put in the rotation of our cornerback room. So, what do you think about a guy like Rasul Douglas?
Yeah, I think Douglas, he's going to be probably, 31 by the time season starts. So, he's at the twilight of his career, but he's definitely probably top 3 corner available. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a little bit more expensive than some of these other corners that are available. But there's still some plenty good options. But I do think the Green Bay Packers are probably going to end up signing him just because I think the fan
They
base
need
wants
him.
him. And with them having Keyshawn Nixon as their top corner, I mean that's going to be pretty dangerous if you roll out Nixon as your CB1 with the division with DJ Moore and Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown and
Might as well put Tom Grossi out there.
I know exactly somebody like that. That's what it feels like. But we saw it in Lambeau too. Like Keyshawn Nixon ran his mouth at the. I think it was the Vikings game. He was like talking trash to the reporter, and then Justin Jefferson had that big one-handed catch, even though it didn't count. But that big paw, he just stuck his paw out there and grabbed it with one hand and got some
Yeah.
yards out of the catch. But that was pretty funny. But he tends to talk a lot of smack, so. Maybe he's picked up from Jair talking smack and then not getting anything from it. So, we definitely,
Burn.
gotta silence some haters. Let's just say that. But I think Rasul Douglas would be a good option. But I just think that he already has a home with the Packers. He's been there before. I think it might be a little bit tough to go to poach him out from Green Bay just because there is that working relationship. And we all know this is a league of relationships, and we've just seen it with Jair going from the Packers over to the Ravens. Even though the Ravens don't need a corner, one like Jair, the Vikings could have very well have used his talents even more if they were to go that route. But but it's more of just a league of who do I want to play with, or what coach do I want to play with? It's just who do I know and who can I work with, and that's really all it really stems down to more than anything.
Yeah, I do want to bring up another guy too. We'll bring up about 5 or so corners on this episode, but a guy that had some steam earlier this year around draft time, free agency, to a guy from the Los Angeles Chargers. His name is Asante Samuel Jr. So, is that a guy? I know he's had some physicals, that may not have passed during that time because I forgot what his injury was, but he had some sort of injury that might have not passed him through a physical. And I think he's a pretty solid corner. He would definitely be your number 2 for sure behind Byron Murphy Jr. So Asante Samuel Jr. 25 years old. He'll be 29 going into the season. Still, or not 29, 26. I can't do math apparently. 26 going into the season. Still really, really young. A nice young corner. Injury problems might be a concern too. But what are we thinking about Asante Samuel Jr.?
Yeah, I think with a guy like Asante, he's going to be strictly your slot guy. He's not going to be this 6'3" corner that can go and match up and just say, here, you just play press coverage and be that boundary guy. He's going to be your slot guy that can really thrive in that zone coverage, and that's what he did so well with the Chargers for so many years. But, I think he's probably the number 1 corner out there just because given his age, and the play style is very similar to the rest of the free agents out there. And I think the age is the only thing tipping the thing in his favor with him being that number 1 option because you get to sign him and then get some years after that. With some other guys, you're kind of getting these 1-year rentals or 2-year rentals with some guys. So I think, like I said, Asante would be the number 1 guy. I know that we looked at our other podcast. I know Purple Daily had said something about that being an option through them, but I think with the thing I kind of get a little hesitant on with that is with his dad kind of being like a copycat of LeVar Ball and just talking crap, and then with Chris Carter that might make the meetings a little awkward by if he were to come around and see his son for playing football. But I don't think he would base that decision based on his dad. He would base that on what's best for him and his career. But like I said, if they want to sign him, I welcome it, and could definitely I think that's the beauty of this Vikings corner room is that they got guys like Byron Murphy Jr. and Mekhi Blackman that can play outside and inside, and they're so versatile and you can change your scheme based on certain. And you can have different formations and schemes based on different play styles and what you're looking for in different situations. So I think that would be a good signing for him. I think it would make things a little interesting for him as well. So I would welcome that signing for sure.
Sure. Before we get to our fourth corner that we talk about here, I do want to ask you, what is your confidence level going into the season with our current cornerback room? Byron Murphy Jr. as your kind of outside slot corner, whatever he plays in our different defensive schemes. We got Isaiah Rogers, we got Mekhi Blackman, Jeff Okuda if he gets any playing time or makes it through training camp. Just to name a few guys. How are you feeling about that cornerback room?
I think for me, I would say it would probably be like a 6. It's not like it's overly negative. I don't think it's the worst corner room in the league. Is it probably average, below average, maybe a little bit? Sure, maybe. But, we thought the same thing maybe with our linebacker room just last year and our edge rushers last year with, I don't want to say no names, but just some guys who hadn't really been household names yet. And maybe that's what they're kind of seeing with Isaiah Rogers. He's been graded out very, very well the last few years as kind of like this under the radar sort of player. And I know he had some gambling issues and then he got suspended for the year, which, and I think he's kind of learned his lesson from that. But, I think I kind of view that kind of like a more of like an Andrew Van Ginkel signing-esque sort of player where he didn't really get the biggest playing time. Like he was kind of this rotational guy more in Miami because they had Jalen Phillips over there too. And you really started to get that more out of that playing time, get more exposure out there when Phillips was hurt and not really playing. So I think we could say Flores knew what he was getting with him and signed him. So I think I think with a guy like that, you can maybe make things work, and you might get lightning might strike twice by signing somebody like that. So it would definitely be great because then you get a young corner who's like 26, 27. You get him for 2-3 more years, and before you start to really see that a little bit of a regression start to happen. But I would say, like I said, I would say 6. I think just the biggest question mark is Mekhi Blackman and what kind of Mekhi Blackman are we getting post ACL?
Yep. I think it's just kind of a wait and see type thing. We got to wait and see how Isaiah Rogers plays in this Brian Flores system. Mekhi Blackman, we saw him. What was he? He was still in the Flores defense, right? He got drafted in that, so still got to wait and see how he plays out. Jeff Okuda, like I said, if he makes it through training camp, we got to see how he is. I think he could be a nice little joker card, I guess you could say, just to see how he plays. He might be really good. He might just be how he's been throughout his whole career, just a boss. So with that said, is there any guys that you kind of hope that the Vikings sign as far as cornerback bodies that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, I think a name to keep an eye out for, and he's actually just coming from Miami, but he's not too old, and like I say, he's kind of like, I feel like in that Rasul Douglas tier is Kendall Fuller. He's been around, and he could play outside corner. He could potentially be a CB1 caliber player for your team, maybe kind of like to the Byron Murphy Jr. level of player where you can rotate guys in and maybe throw Rodgers in the slot, and you can move Murphy in the slot and have Rodgers and Fuller and Murphy in the slot, and then Mekhi Blackman if you wanted to go with your dime look. So I kind of would like that. I think that would be a really good option. That's probably one of my top options, like where you have that veteran guy who's still very good and he's not overly old, where he's going to be a liability, where he's still only 30 years old, and I don't think he turns 31 till probably like the this offseason, I think is what I want to say. So he'll be 30.
Because he's 30.4 right now. So
Okay. Yeah, so he'll most likely be 30 then for most of the season. So you'll have a good amount of years left in him. So I think that would be a really good signing for him, where you get a guy who's not at the end of his career that's really going to see huge regression. You'll probably get one really good year out of him, where he could be that top corner, or at least a respectable corner in the league that can play really good against those top receivers in games that you really need him to. So I think that would be a really interesting signing if the Vikings were to pursue that.
Yeah, I mean the guys that I was kind of eyeing up before they got traded, obviously, was a guy like Jair Alexander and Jalen Ramsey. Jair, like you said, went to the Ravens. Jalen Ramsey went to the Steelers. The Steelers might be an interesting team to watch this year. They have so many old guys, but besides the point, I don't know if there's really many other cornerbacks to trade for. right now that are really on the market. There might be a few guys that I'm just not thinking of right now, but is there anybody that could be on the Vikings radar, after training camp or, even mid-season before the trade deadline?
Yeah, I'm setting myself up to where they're not going to sign this big name corner. They're not going to sign a Douglas. They're not going to sign a Fuller or somebody like that. I'm kind of preparing myself. It's going to be like this mid-market level guy where it's a guy you go, oh yeah, I forgot this guy was even available. And they've shown interest in him before, and that's been Jack Jones of the Raiders, who was released by the Raiders. Still a free agent, still hasn't signed anywhere. Has basically never had seen his name out there on any visits, any inquiries on his status if he wants to join their team. So I think with that, I think that's the guy the Vikings are probably going to look at. I do have some concerns, though, with him. He does have a really big rap sheet off the field, so that can be a concern if he really can't handle that and get that issue squared away. And most of it's been failure to keep hands to himself. We'll just say that, to put it kind of nicely and beating around the bush. But when he's been out there, he's very talented. He's very good at being a DB in this league. And his most notable one was, I think, he picked off Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead, and the Raiders ended up beating the Chiefs. I think it was like shortly after, like right before we played them, or right after we played them, or a couple weeks after we played them. So I think Jack Jones is kind of that realistic corner I could see them trying to go after and try to sign in their free agency return, where he plays outside. He can, there's a history of them being connected to him and having interest in him, just never really pursuing anything. And he's really not going to cost that much either, which is a big plus and check for the Vikings, for their checkbook and their cap space next year, because they'll actually project to be in the negative next year, which, if you could try to roll over some of that money over to next year, where you might be able to keep some guys or like re-sign, maybe restructure some guys as deals. I think that's what would probably be the most ideal thing for him. But I think a guy like Jack Jones is probably the most like realistic option, I would say, for the Vikings.
Sure. I know we're talking about corners in this episode, but is there any other, I guess I'll just put it as defensive backs, whether that's safety or corner, that, could possibly join the Vikings? I know Harrison Smith, this is most likely his last rodeo. Theo Jackson is still kind of unknown in a way, because he's shown flashes that he can be really good. I mean, he picked off Jalen Hurts 2 years ago. I think he's had a couple picks with us so far this season. So, that could be, it could be a murky safety room as well. Jay Ward kind of still unknown. Other than that, there's really not too many other reliable safeties on this roster. So just kind of planning ahead, sign a guy for like a year or two just to kind of see. And then Harrison Smith can kind of get that rotation, because he is 35, 36. So, or somewhere around there. And then, Theo Jackson's still the new guy. Do the Vikings want to sign a veteran safety? So just kind of looking at the list here of free agent safeties, Marcus Williams, obviously these guys are all starters. I would probably personally sign, a rotational guy or a backup. But Marcus Williams, Justin Simmons, Jordan Whitehead, Julian Blackmon, Quandre Diggs, Chuck Clark, Jordan Poyer, those are all obviously like starters, but someone that could probably be in a good rotation from the Buccaneers, Ryan Neal. I mean, he seems like a pretty good joker or chess piece. Adrian Colbert from the Bears. Von Bell, possibly. He's kind of on the older side as well. But is there any safeties, or do you think that we're kind of set at safety for this year?
I think mainly we're pretty much set on guys at safety. I think what we get is what we're going to get. But in the scenario that they were to go and sign a safety just to bring somebody in, it would definitely be somebody on the cheap. I would not expect a Marcus Williams, so I think could actually be a really big piece for the Chiefs, because they really need that starting safety to replace Justin Reed. But a guy that I kind of look at is John Johnson, because he did play with the Rams. I believe he was there when Kevin O'Connell was there around that time. So there's that working relationship there, where even if he didn't, it's, I worked with Sean McVay and he worked with Sean McVay. So I can work with him because he knows what to expect, similar expectation coming in. So I think that would be something where you could maybe see that happen because he's not too old. He's only 29. He's going to be probably 29. But probably won't turn 30 probably till the end of the season, or maybe close to like January, February. So I think that would probably be a guy if they were to sign somebody to like be a backup to Harrison Smith, if he's even interested in being a backup at that point. I think a guy that you could probably look at, and I just don't know if we'll really add anybody. I think kind of what we see is what we're getting out of the Vikings safety room right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. I guess before we wrap this up, is there any other cornerbacks kind of on your radar? Wish list maybe for the Vikings, or maybe even a prediction of who you think the Vikings will sign?
I think I could see a scenario where they try to maybe pick up a kick returner, somebody that has experience there. I just because I know that Isaiah Rodgers has been kind of floated as a name out there. I guess I mean I love Silas Bolden. I'm a big Silas Bolden guy. I think he's going to be the punt returner coming into this season. I don't know if he'll be the kick returner. I would like him to be our kick returner, but I just know how things can be very different. But I think if a guy like Silas Bolden weren't to be a kick returner, what options do you have? Because I just don't know how comfortable I would be with having Isaiah Rodgers go out there. I mean, I know we've had Ty Chandler do it in the past, but I don't know if Ty Chandler even makes this roster at this point.
Yeah.
Then you're kind of leaving yourself with one kick returner. Is it Jalen Naylor? I mean, even Jalen Naylor's got some question marks if he's going to make this roster because of how many receivers we've added. So, like, if it is just Silas Bolden and Isaiah Rodgers out there, like, you really don't have that much depth out there. So, I'm wondering if there's really anyone really out there that could do it for them. I don't think there's any corners we listed that are really capable or have had experience doing it. But I'll see if there's anyone just off the top of mind. Deontay Hardy, I guess, could. He's somebody you can probably get on the cheap. I guess he's done it a couple of times. But really, Jalen Darden, I guess. I mean, there's some guys who can do it that are not fairly old and can do it. But I would like to, like I said, I would probably, me personally, I think it's best that if you could try to keep Silas Bolden on this roster, be your punt returner one, and then be your kick returner as well, and then maybe Rodgers kind of be like that secondary kickoff returner, or maybe just be like a blocker on special teams or something like that. But I think if you can get Bolden to be your primary kick returner, I think that opens up it's a heaven's gate just getting onto this 53, which we usually have a couple of UDFAs get on. I think a guy like Bolden is definitely going to be a guy that can get onto this 53, and maybe Jalen Naylor's the odd man out for it because of Silas Bolden being more willing and it has a better pathway of being a better kick return than Naylor has in the past.
It all starts on special teams. That's kind of where you have to grow. And then
Yep.
if you're a great special teamer, it's pretty easy to make the roster. You'll stick around for quite a while. So,
Yeah.
Other than that, that will be kind of your list of cornerbacks that could potentially join the Minnesota Vikings. If you guys have any other ideas or any other corners that could potentially join the Vikings that you want or you think are going to join, leave them in the comments or let us know what you guys think. And, maybe we can do other types of videos like this where we look at other positions and kind of look into the future or what we probably need. Hopefully we can get to offense too. We don't need too much on offense right now, but we'll kind of take it by year by year. So with that said, make sure you guys follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, 612 Vikings, alongside Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, 612 Vikings. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Skull Vikes.